Yes, it is true. Yeah, guys, today we are actually going to watch the MTBB version for the subtitles. I actually managed to get my hands on the future version of the subtitle. I traveled into the future for you. I took my time machine into the year 2032 when the subtitles freshly dropped, and I just got back with them for you right here so we get some good subs. Thank you very much. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Monogatari Off-Season Monster Season, episode 14, the finale. And yeah, it's over. It is really fucking over. Ovari da. Ovari desu ne. Nandesu ka? Why does it have to end? Well, the answer is budget. The answer is let them cook. Hopefully. I don't know, end of 2025, maybe beginning of 2026, we're gonna have a new season. It's been an interesting ride now, hasn't it? I know not all of Off-Season Monster Season has been adapted. I know that. I know there's still a ton, or maybe not a ton, but there's still a good deal to come, at least enough to have another season. I don't know what's beyond that. If Nisio has written something beyond that, do let me know if you do know, right? Obviously no spoilers, but do tell me if there's more than one season's worth, or if this is what it is right now and Nisio is planning on doing more in terms of like light novels and whatnot. I'm not up to date regarding that, so definitely let me know. Oops. But yeah, this is kind of it for now. We did have Tsukii Undo, we did have Nadeko Draw. In my opinion, one of the best arcs of Monogatari in general. Shit, why do I have... like, I'm 1 minute into talking and I'm already starting to fucking... yeah, one of the best arcs of Monogatari overall, in my opinion. It has been such a build-up from all the way from Bake all the way to... yeah, to Nadeko Draw, basically, or Nadeko Snake, which was kind of the most underwhelming part of Bakemonogatari, and now we do know why, because there's been so much more that we needed to elaborate on, or because maybe Nisio Isin started and was like, okay, I have possible plans for Nadeko Snake, but this is the arc for now, and then he realized, oh damn, this was kind of lower in terms of like the bar compared to all of the other stuff that I've been doing in Bake and later on. So let me elaborate on that. And then we got Nadeko Medusa, and after Nadeko Medusa we were like, okay, there's like a temporary conclusion on our... but I think at the point of Nadeko Medusa, Nisio Isin already knew he was gonna do Nadeko Draw. Maybe not specifically what he was gonna do with it, but at the very least the direction in which he was gonna go. And when he sat down to do Off-Season Monster Season, this was probably one of his priorities. Or at the very least, you do see that the adaptation, like the animator's Shaft, did really like Nadeko Draw, and all of us did too, right? From a thematic level. But there was so much love and care put into Nadeko Draw, into every single frame, metaphor-wise, like right, getting to the conclusion, letting things play out in a way that no matter if you are somebody who wants to look into the finer details and wants to compartmentalize and analyze everything, or if you're somebody who's just there for the ride and just here for watching the crazy stuff that happens in Monogatari and like empathizing on a feels level, either way, there's something in there for you, and you, through the atmosphere, through all of these flashes, through every subliminal messaging, you get everything that is supposed to be in there, right? You get all the feels, you get all the connection to Nadeko, And I think that is incredible. But I said it before, obviously it's a tough choice to actually make Shinobu arc be on the same level, right? I don't know if it's possible, because Shinobu is very otherworldly as an entity, right? As a person, as a character. And Shinobu is so closely interwoven with who Araragi is as well, and there's so much in the past that we don't know. That's very insecure, right? That's very, very like vague, and we need to actually put our own interpretation onto that. We had that whole thing in last episode, where we talked about the food poisoning and how we are supposed to interpret that, right? How we're supposed to actually make sense of that. And yes, some of you actually write down in the comments and you're like, I don't get why you're not getting this, right? This makes perfect sense to me. But you have to keep in mind, all right? You have to keep in mind, my friends, some of you are light novel readers, okay? So you do have additional context. Obviously, if you read The Lord of the Rings, if you read Harry Potter, if you read any kind of book that's getting an adaptation later on, be that anime, movie, whatever, right? Then you are going to get a lot more exposition. You're going to get a lot more inner monologue. You get a lot more like elaboration on certain concepts that the author can just sprinkle in there and be like, this is actually how it is, my dear audience. Araragi or Gaen or whatever don't know that or only suspect that, but this is how it is. And all of that has to be told on a visual level and on like a framing level, on a director's level, basically, in order for the audience of an anime, of like a visual medium, to actually properly get that. And all of that has to be packed in either the voice lines themselves and the explanations, or the clear messaging that you get from the anime, like from the visuals themselves, right? And even there is always room for interpretation. So it's really hard to do that, and this is why I'm always impressed at Monogatari, because most of the time they actually really nail what you're supposed to get from a certain situation, and most people kind of find an agreement, even though if there's obviously always kind of fine detail differences between how a certain person sees a certain concept or explains to themselves a certain thing that's been happening that's been left vague. But that's okay, right? Because we're all supposed to be on the general same line, but us actually going in different directions and having different like subtypes and connotations to our interpretations is what makes this medium kind of fun. At the same time, right, sometimes things are a little bit vague, and I do feel like, I guess, I don't know, like I wanted to talk about this maybe after the episode, but let's actually kind of say a little bit something about that. I was having a thought about Monogatari, and especially like the last couple of episodes where it's a lot Shinobu, right? And it's a lot like 600 years ago or 400 years ago, and all of these things that are going on, and oddities instead of humans, because humans are obviously very, very understandable, very identifiable for each and every one of us, because we are all humans. We all go through the same general developmental stages, even though we're vastly different in nation, in our worldview and all of that stuff. But we go through like a common biological development, while the concept of an oddity is actually something that is a lot more abstract and very much built on how society perceives things. So there's a lot of like vagueness that's going on there, and interpretation, and what Nisio Isin wants to put into our minds. And oftentimes it's very interesting. Oftentimes what the authors are actually putting out there, it's not always going to be received the way the author intends for it to be received. Or sometimes the author's like, I'm sprinkling this out here, and I want you to actually make up your mind about this. And then after a while, they find out, hey, these are very interesting interpretations that I didn't consider at all. So this is always cool, and especially if you have a medium like Monogatari, a long-running series that kind of super fans of Monogatari, of the light novel, have been adapting as Studio Shaft. There's so much care and dedication going into that, but also very much a lot of personal subjective interpretation of the medium, right? So you do have a proxy effect that's happening here. Nisio Isin puts something out, Shaft takes it in, and they're like, oh, this is how I'm gonna interpret this one. Obviously they're gonna consult Nisio Isin on some stuff, but not on every little tiny detail. And then you're gonna get like the artist's interpretation of the entirety of the Monogatari series, and the artist actually puts out their interpretation of the Monogatari series, and then you have the viewer, and the viewer suddenly, right, we are also a person who has subjective perception. We have our own worldview, we have our own like filters that are in our brain going on. We're gonna pick out the relevant information that is interesting for us specifically, and we take certain neutral information and interpret that in a positive or negative or in a creative way that kind of matches up with who we are and what kind of life we've led and what kind of media we've actually consumed, right? There's a lot to like a discussion about media literacy and how people who are a little bit more literate in certain types of media, right? Somebody who has seen like 500 anime is probably going to be a lot more skilled in picking up the intricacies of such a medium than somebody who has seen 20 anime, right? And now is watching his 21st. So yeah, there's so much going on, but I've been wondering that if this latest arc of Monogatari, to bring my tangent to an end, I've been wondering if this latest arc of Monogatari isn't kind of a lot more in line with what we would see from a Sadagoto, for example. Mind you, I have only seen Sadagoto for the first, I think, 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes, right? I've seen the first 2 or 3 episodes of Sadagoto. I never finished it or continued it or whatever, right? I don't remember why I didn't continue it or finish it, but there's been other priorities probably. That's how it's often been for me in my life. But the vibe I've gotten from Sadagoto was a lot more the same vibe that we had in this latest arc, which is a lot about like detective work and trying to figure out vague concepts and things where we do not have all of the information yet, and we kind of may have to jump to our own conclusions or kind of sometimes take information with a grain of salt because we're like, yes, we trust this person, we trust Gan, we trust Araragi to be capable, right? To be able to interpret things. But oftentimes we find out, okay, in episode 9, Araragi says something and comes to a conclusion. He's like, oh, it's actually like this. And like, I'm like, I don't see it that way, right? I see it a little bit another way. And then you talk to one another, right, as like fellow viewers of Monogatari, and one person says, you know what, actually, well, Araragi explained it, right? This makes perfect sense to me, right? And I'm like, okay, maybe that's true. And like 2 episodes later, Aragi's like, okay, you know what? My bad. I was wrong, right? Not completely wrong. Like I had that one right, but on this one, it's actually like this. and right, Nisio Isin has very clever writing where he sprinkles in foreshadowing, where there's like a lot of puzzle pieces to actually put the puzzle together. The problem is if you have a lack of information, you can put the puzzle together in different arrangements, and sometimes pieces of what you're saying, what you're thinking is right, and pieces of what you're saying and thinking is not right, and it's kind of right? It doesn't pan out the way you think it will pan out. And I think there's a lot of red herrings being sprayed in as well, right? Where we do have like little mysteries where it's like, we did need that extra part of knowledge that we couldn't have had in terms of like oddity knowledge or in terms of like what actually happened behind the scenes, that only later on is gonna get filled in, right? So until then, it's kind of a guessing game. And I don't mind that, right? But I'm not somebody who's right super much into predictive stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I can see where this is possibly going, but obviously you want to know where this is emotionally and thematically going. I do feel like a lot of Shinobu Mastered has been about the past, about dystopia, about like reuniting old people. But we had that side plot going on with the basketball team, right? We did have that, like the stuff about like the basketball team having trouble with like cohesion and teamwork, right? There's being a lot about like putting a lot of pressure onto yourself and seeing everything just as like a result of your own effort, putting in more and more effort and not getting the returns you want, right? Having discord and like bullying and like reciprocal pressuring basically going on within that team and having like a lack of team chemistry, basically. So I do wonder if we're actually concluding that part of it, right? If we do kind of put a bow on that and find a way to actually, within these 20 minutes, to actually explain, okay, this is the person who did it. Well, we're suspecting one of the girls did it, which I forgot the name. I'm sorry. It's not Kia. I thought it was Kia, and it's not Kia, at least according to Gaen. So, are we gonna put a bow on that? Are we gonna confront the person and then find out what's actually happening? What are we gonna do with them, right? Because we're kind of have to keep the balance, right? I see Araragi in a lot of ways. I do see Araragi as like a top pupil of Oshino, because Oshino was the person who was like, I want to remain. Like, I want to keep the balance, right? I don't care about like just eliminating, which is something that Kagenui would be doing. And I don't care about like just right scamming people like Kaiki would do, or being like in it for myself and being very selfish. I don't care much about like Shikigami puppets, whatever, which is something Tadatsuru would be doing or has been doing. I don't know, I guess he's in hell now. And I'm also, right, and Gaen is kind of somebody who's very much likes to be in control, right? While that might allow for some kind of balance going on, I do think Gaen often veers in the direction of, I rather have an element actually be eliminated to some degree, right? Either by killing it or by neutralizing it in some other way, making it harmless, rather than it coming to bite me in the end, right? When like all the way down the line when something happens. So there's this element going on, and I feel like Araragi's more always been the advocate for the oddities, because he's still in that middle between the oddity and the human, being mostly human, but also understanding the other side, having like a little, like the little toe in the other side, or at the other side. Much like Shinobu, who is now, thanks to that weird arrangement and the big bond that we have between the two of them, is actually in the same position, right? We do have powers, we do have whatnot, but both of them are very human, right? Very much veering on the human side, and that vampire bit is just like hanging on there, and they have like a tiny part of themselves in that world, although Shinobu has a lot more of that in that world, because she has such a large, like, just temporal history of being that, right? Being an oddity, and Araragi just like spent I don't know how many, like a week or two being that oddity. So there's that difference as well. But yeah, are we gonna put a bow on that? Are we gonna hear them out? Are we gonna actually, what are we gonna do with them? Are they gonna get killed, neutralized, turned back? Are they willing to be turned back? And then there's the final conclusion, which I do hope really we are gonna get, because I do feel like emotionally I have like a hole, right? Emotionally I do have this hole within my chest that is, I want Deftopia and Shinobu to talk more. I want Araragi and Deftopia and Shinobu to talk more and find some kind of like parting ways, right? Almost like conclusion, like Frieren in episode 28, where it's like, goodbye for now, we'll see you again, right? Or something like, hey, I'll be off, but I'll check in 20 years or something like that, which would be a really cool thing to do, just part ways with and be like, or maybe Deftopia is gonna be like, you know what? It's fine. Like, I drank, right? And maybe we kind of can find a solution, or I'm looking for a solution in the meantime to actually stay alive, right? And feed without getting food poisoning or whatever, right? We need to find a solution for her to stay alive. And thanks, right? Like, in thanks for you actually helping me with that, and me myself actually being allowed to stay alive and look for a solution for that. I'm actually atoning for what I've done, which is create a new minion, and I'm gonna take them under my wing, and we're gonna go out together and see what we're gonna do, right? So, something along those lines. But I don't know if that's something that a specialist like Gaen would allow. So there's this thing, right? Because it's like vampires have to feed to a degree to actually stay alive. So there's that. I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay, here's how it's gonna go. Here's how it's gonna go. So you know what to expect. We're gonna have a normal reaction with a normal post discussion this time. There's not gonna be any extra discussion. And in a couple of weeks, 1 or 2 weeks or whatever, whenever I find the time to actually do it, we're gonna have a final conclusion where I look over episode 14 again. We're gonna go into a little bit more detail, see maybe I've spotted a couple of more cool angles and shots and nice like stuff to interpret, right? And then after that, after we've looked through it and been like, there's this thing, right? There's this pun, there's a really cool moment here. We're actually gonna go into just talking about the series in general, like I did just now, but maybe a little bit more extended. Talk about how I like the season, right? How what I'm expecting from the next season, what I hope I'll see in the next season, and stuff like that. So that would be really cool, and I think I'm gonna be doing that. That being said, we're gonna be jumping into this episode, into this last episode of Monogatari for now. Not forever. Monogatari, Off-Season Monster Season episode 14, Shinobu Master episode 6, it should be, I think. Starts with a panel of Shinobu. I think I'm gonna like the first frame of whatever comes after this chapter panel is gonna be the frame we're gonna use for the sync up. It starts in 3, 2, 1. Woo! Oh no! God, I forgot about this. Holy shit! Yes, I forgot about this. Oh god. Yeah, of course, it's steel. Holy shit, the innuendos. That kind of fits run and gun. Ooh, okay. Kinda makes sense, right? Also 17, god damn it. Alright. Holy shit. Kanbaru, stop it. Okay. We're gathering information. Ooh, okay, they never played together? Okay, 4 of them. Do 4 of them have a common point? Yeah. But, yeah, but if they all don't have anything in common. Okay, yeah, out of place, right? Okay, the favorite's coming back. Okay, I didn't read that flashcard, unfortunately, but we'll be fine, I think. We're gonna figure it out. Last time we hear this intro. We see this intro. I do really love the art style of the intro. Hey, Meniko. Still love that. It's even built up like a mystery novel, kind of like a mystery story. Part 6. Chapter 47. Ooh, and purple now. Purple and red. Almost hostile colors. But yeah, okay, Deftopia's on the scene. And more... Oh, no, it's not Deftopia, holy shit. Okay. It's fucking Kia, I fucking knew it. It's Kia. Holy shit. You're poison. Yeah. It's kind of a blight on her honor, isn't it? Was it a sign of respect? Okay. Jikuji is the guard dog. Was it all for revenge, Snake? Ooh, we're obfuscating information. But we're not covering. Oh, she was covering up that. So she was helping her. It was a favor. Holy shit. Almost like reflective of what she did for Acerola, right? Exactly. Right, sentimentality. He's having her outfit. Ooh. Mutual, right? Well, there is. Yeah. It was. Right, so that's her conclusion. That's her interpretation. She accomplished it all. That's why she has forgotten. Yeah. The void. Parched like I was mummified. Even then I can't afford to stop. I'm in too deep. Ooh, what a shot. Sell it to me.
失望じゃなくて絶望だ。そんな絶望的な貴様にいい話がある。吸血鬼にいいところなんかねえが、いい話がある。
Okay.
いい話？美談ってこと？
吸血鬼には美談もねえよ。
No.
これは商談だ。
Ooh, a business deal. What do you mean?
その美味しい話とやらを。
俺様を食っていいぜ。
Ooh. Oh, the parallels to Kisu.
もしも人間に戻りたいと願うのであれば、
Did they talk about it, right?
その血をごくごく吸えば、今ならばまだ人間に戻れる。
And that would be the end for her.
戻りたいなんて私一言だって言ったっけ？いいものじゃないとは言ったけれど、悪いものだって言った覚えはないわよ。
最悪だって言っただろう。
言葉のあやよ。
An exaggeration.
人間が最高と言った覚えもないわ。女子高生が最高だと言った覚えもね。
そう思っているのなら、俺様の血を吸うだけでなく、むしゃむしゃ食らい
But you should chow down and eat all of me. Punch down on the flesh and bones.
そうすれば不完全な吸血鬼である貴様は、しかし主殺しの吸血鬼として今以上のパワー。
Ooh, okay, we didn't know that. What?
どちらにしても貴様に損はね。人間に戻りたい。
Become more powerful. Go back to being human.
より恐ろしい吸血鬼になりたきゃ、より強力でより恐ろしい吸血
Ooh,
鬼。
blue and red.
さあ、どうする？
あなたに何の得があるわけ？そのいい話に。
Yeah, is this a trick? That's her question.
商談には決死にして必死にして万死の吸血鬼が
Vampire of inevitable death.
私のために死んでくれるの？
まさか、商談は一挙両得が基本だろ。
And she jumps away.
吸われなくても食われなくても、どうせ俺様は死ぬんだ
Ooh,
よ。
yeah, of course, because she can't eat anything else.
飢え死にだよ、拒食症で死んじまう。それってすっげえダセーだろ。だから貴様に
You want to have a spectacular end, of course you do.
殺し直してほしいんだよ。
Is there really no solution?
ってわけ？吸血鬼の死因の8割だか
The little bats.
自殺なのよね。
そうだな、みんな自殺する。だから俺様が自殺したいと思う前に殺してほしい。
I don't want to go out like all the others. But isn't that de facto the same?
希望するってわけ。
尊厳死だよ。
A death with dignity.
俺様にそれ
A very Japanese idea.
尊く、厳しく、死ぬ。
Revered, merciless.
どうして私なわけ？
But isn't it mercy?
私が選ばれたわけ。
選ぶのは貴様だよ。二者択一みたいに言ったが、別に吸わなくても食わなくてもいい。
You can just say the way you are.
していようと、俺様を殺せるやつなんて限られているが、俺様は別に急いでない。
Yeah.
死に急いでない。ただ、思い残すことはなくなった。
Holy shit. Yeah.
昔の人たちがヘラヘラぬくぬく楽しそうにやってるのをこの目で確認したからな。
She's happy.
残すことはない。
わかったわ。殺してあげる。これで貸し借りなしよ。 自ら殺された私が自ら殺してあげる。誇り高く死んで、尊く厳しく死んで。
そりゃどうも懇願した甲斐があったぜ。そうそう、名前教えてもらっていいか？偉大なる俺様を殺す吸血鬼の名前を知っておきたいんだよ。
いいわ、そのくらい。
Ooh, the birth of a new vampire.
私の名前は
Ooh. And Araragi is here. Yeah. Okay. Of course not. It all makes sense. All the discord. Resolved. Yeah.
どうして僕たちがあのミイラをハリマゼちゃんと判断したのかといえば、
Only the belongings.
逆に言えば
Negligence.
ミイラに自分の制服を着せ、自分のカバンを持たせ、自分の携帯電話を握らせれば、
You're gonna assume it's you.
自分だと思わせることができるんじゃないのか。 だが公平を期すならどのミイラが入れ替えられているのかはどのミイラにも平等に可能性があった。
The one who first got turned, right?
なってくるのはメニコに解いてもらった暗号である。明白にガエンさんたち捜査陣を意識した偽装工作だ。
Yeah.
その時点からすでに捜査陣の内部情報は流出。
But how did they get leaked?
一体連続吸血犯はどうやってガエンさんたちの存在を把握。
Exactly, that's the point.
その方法を思いついたのもメニコとの会話がヒントになった。携帯電話は脳の一部みたいな話をした。その携帯電話を制服やスクールバッグとともに犯人が生産したミイラにまとわせたのだと。
Holy shit, did they just been...
目や耳やそして脳をミイラに取り付けておいた。
Also, they managed to actually do that? Holy fuck. Yeah, okay, wiretap. I just wouldn't put it onto high school girl, right? I guess there's episode at this point. Yeah, of course, it all makes sense, right? The chronology.
さらに重要なことに、携帯電話はこまめに充電をしなければいつかは電池が切れる。つまり僕がスーサイドマスターを復活させるための場所にカンバル家を選んだことや、ひいてはそのためにカンバルに外出してもらったことなどを犯人は知らないということである。東山の家の OG 集会を狙うのではなく、ごくごく普通にカンバル家を狙うはずなのだ。
Yeah, and this is why you need to be here, of course. And he's gotta pull up like this. Look at what he's pulling up in. Yeah, of course you have. Ooh, what a panel.
ここには人間は一人もいませんけれど。
なあ、ハリマズちゃん。君が僕の事情を把握しているように、僕も君の事情を少しは把握している。それでもやっぱりやりすぎだよ。
やりすぎじゃなくてやめすぎなんですよ、私は。部活をやめられないからって。何も生きるのをやめることはなかったでしょうね。
I've quit too much.
まだ間に合う。君が襲ったみんなを元に戻して。君を元に戻して。
私のことは放っておいて。みんなはどうなんでしょうね。
Aragi trying to save somebody again.
今の方が楽なんじゃないでしょうか。
You don't know that though, Ki.
私は襲ったんじゃなくて助けたんじゃないでしょうか。
Framing.
何を言っているんだ。あんなカラカラに乾いて生きているのか死んでいるのかわからないような状態で。
生きているのか死んでいるのかわからないなんて高校生ならみんな。
Ooh, that is a view on the world.
大学生になったらそんな気持ちも忘れちゃいましたか。
This is not how it felt for Aragi.
私たちがキャッキャと青春しているように見えますか。悩みなんて何もない女子高生に見えます。
The reflection is really cool.
荒木先輩。青春の青は思っているより濃いんですよ。
Blue.
みたいなダークブルーなんです。
Depression.
青春なんてとっくに忘れた幻冬の俺様には気恥ずかしい討論だぜ。そういう掛け合いこそが青春なんじゃねえの。笑える。さっさと決めねえからこういうことになるんだよ。
She thinks it's already over.
食いたいか食われたいかだぜ。それとも主人を食いたいか主役を食いたいか。
そうね。
The protagonist.
濃かろうと薄かろうと青春なんてもう真っ平。私は赤い闇を選んだのだから。私が間違っていたわ。
We're being very poetic today.
もっと間違えましょう。
Right, I'm already in too deep.
4月14日生まれ、16歳、身長170センチ、ポジション控え。
Nope, you won't. You won't. Oh, I didn't expect Kagenui to come in, but it makes sense.
久しぶり、荒らぎくん。時間稼ぎ、ご苦労さん。ツインテール、似合うやん。
やりすぎです、影縫さん。
前に教えたらんかったっけ、荒らぎくん。不
Mm,
死身の怪異相手にやりすぎるっちゅうことはないんや。
in her opinion, at least.
スーサイドマスター。
いや、俺様みてえな化け物から見ても貴様はやりすぎだよ、影縫い。そいつはまだ貴様が相手にするほどの吸血鬼じゃねえ。ひよっこです。
Yeah, just been born.
するほどの吸血鬼やない？ひよっこ？それはむしろ今の踊れの方ちゃうんけ？
あの時は貴様が幼女みたいなものだった。
Oh, they're throwing shade.
うまくいかないもんだぜ。確かに今の俺様はとても貴様の標的とは言えねえ。
そのようやな。北極から文字通り飛んできたっちゅうのに難儀なこっちゃ。今日のところは見逃したるしかなさそうやな。
そいつはラッキーだ。
Where is it?
どっちがラッキーだったのかわかんねえが。どうやらまた生きてしまったらしい。
Ooh.
魂は。ほんで荒らぎくん。
Oh, that is like a triple. That sentence is like a triple entendre, basically.
で、その女子高生はその後どうなったの？
Ooh. No, 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 no. Holy shit, even with like the brown hair color. What the fuck?
もしもハリマゼちゃんのことを言っているんなら、てっきりそのまま影縫さんに虐殺されるんじゃないかと思ったけれど、
Ooh.
病院送りにした4人を復調させるためにも特赦せざるを得なかったって。
And after that?
大人の事情が適用された感じなのかな。あの子を吸血鬼から人間に戻さないと、その4人が永遠にミイラのままだから。
おや。
Hmm.
吸血鬼になったら人間に戻るためには親殺しをしなきゃいけないんじゃなかったっけ？
Yeah, what's that about?
当事者だった春休みの頃は確かにそうだったんだけど、そこはまた日進月歩で。
It has it.
裸の幼女はどうなったの？
スーサイドマスターは結局国外追放、強制送還。
You just gotta get out of Japan, I guess.
別れ際はさっぱりしたもんだったけどな。その辺の
No, she has no regrets. That's amazing.
僕にはよくわからない。
Yet.
根性の別れってわけでもないだろうし、また会うこともあるだろうさ。
Yeah, I think so too.
なんで黙るの？何か知ってるの？そういえば忍も何か知っていて、僕に黙っていることがあるようだった。しかし、何を隠しているのかは、事後に放たれたこんなコメントに現れる。
Oh, okay. A question from a year and a half ago.
人って人間ってなんだという僕の問いかけに対する。
So what are they, Shinobu?
モンスターじゃろ。コヨミン、結局。
I'm sorry, what?
成立したことになるの。そもそもはそこがスタートだったはずよね。
一応成立したことになったみたいだぜ。
嘘だとかごまかしだとかフェイクだとか、人間の人間らしさがこういう形で絡んでくるとなると、やっぱり風雪化の確率は急務だな。
Rumor division.
まあ、ハリマズちゃんもそうだけれど、それが許されちゃうのは結局、僕がまだまだ子供ってことなんだろうぜ。
Ooh. I mean, it's insane that he actually is so self-reflective in that way.
なんてこと、次の講義の時間が迫っているわ。それじゃ、またいずれ近いうちに。用があったらこっちから連絡するわ。
それって連絡をしない時の定型句なんじゃ。
おや、可愛らしいのつけてるじゃない。コヨミンも女子バスケットボール部の一員になったってわけ。
まあ乗りかかった船だからな。カンバルやヒガスちゃんと協力して現状を何とかしようって計画には引き続き喜んで協力させてもらってるよ。
荒らぎくんがまだまだ子供なのはそういうところじゃない。
影野井さんは迷わないんですか？
やったことは人の方に照らしても鬼の方に照らしても許されざる犯罪だったとはいえ、僕は播磨瀬喜恵の事情を考慮せざるを得なかった。考えてしまうし迷ってしまう。
迷わへんよ、大人やから。
およそ多数派の意見を代弁しているとは思えないその独特の返答にも点として迷いはなかった。しかしなるほど、それが大人ってことなら僕は子供でしかない。幼女よりも幼い子供でしかない。執行猶予された吸血鬼たちと同様に、不老不死になろうと、地獄に落ちようと、高校を卒業しようと、そして大学生になろうと、あられに小弓は未だモラトリアムの真っ最中だった。
A satisfying end, I would say. Really, it's been a satisfying end. I'm very happy about how this went. This final episode of Monogatari. Let's talk about it. Speed it up a little bit. I do love these little like Shinobu going out for snacks and stuff. I don't need to say anything about the Araragi's thing. I'm very sorry, Araragi, but you're taking it like a champ. So we're going through these, and it's like the innuendos here are like insane, right? Favorite place, steal, right? And we say that after Higasa went and like 2 episodes or 3 episodes ago was like, by the way, Araragi, you got a girlfriend? Give me your phone number. She's dangerous. Be careful, people. But yeah, I'll go through them. Double team. What? Hello? Okay. Obviously they're having fun. She's like run and gun, which makes perfect sense with the way she looks, right? Her style. Yeah, makes sense that she's more of the aggressive player. Alley-oop. I don't know what alley-oop specifically means. I'm not a basketball expert. I would say it's like, it's dunking, I guess. And she's like, obviously she's a block. She's very big and all of that, so makes sense. But also, 17? Really? She looks like college. Not gonna lie. But yeah. And she's like cheering? Hello? Like, are you even part of the team? I mean, I guess you need a captain, right? Maybe you need somebody who's like keeping like the cohesion and whatnot. And obviously, Kambaru has to lay it on thick. I probably can't keep that on the screen for too long, so we're just gonna get past it. 5 members are missing, and we're going through that, and we're like, wait, if they don't have like if they don't have anything in common or whatnot, we need to find the one who's the odd one out, right? And we're thinking about that, find the one that's different from all others, right? And with the haircut, we already have kind of a hint who's different from the others, right? If you look at that and we're like, okay, 5 of them are actually having the same haircut. and the one on the side, and we already show it in terms of like the color scheme, because when we could put the color in front, 4 of them are still there, but the key is actually the one out. And Aragi's like, I see. I remember the favor I asked Kanbaru and the conversation I had with Meniko. Those who gaze into the abyss are being gazed back by the abyss as well. Okay, it's like more of a generic statement in a way, right? It's kind of more describing what exactly they are going through. Right. A phone conversation, and Aragi actually peeked that. He was like, oh damn, right, that's what it is. And we jump into the intro. All right, let me just get over. I thought that was Suicide Master for a second. I was like, wait, she gotten older? But then I was like, no, wait, the Kopeni haircut. And we have the red flash in between. And she immediately, she's like, you know what? I'll put told Hachikuchi to take a walk, and right. And I was surprised that she was like, that there was this motive behind. I didn't see that part coming. I did see Kia coming, but I didn't see it coming that Deftopia would be like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna cover for you specifically, but what I'm gonna do is like, I'm gonna cover the reason why I actually turned you. Which is like, I'm kind of putting myself out there, displaying my weakness, my apparent weakness to other people, kind of maybe bringing shame on my own name even. And despite that, actually, the reasons for why I turned you were very sentimental, right? They were very nostalgic. Deftopia came here to see Shinobu, and suddenly she meets a girl who begs to be a vampire, right? Who begs to be turned. And she has these flashes of the past, right? She's like, especially we're already in the context, like in the cognitive social context and the environment, in the mindset to be like kiss shot focused, right? Asarola focused. And then there's somebody who comes along and who meets you, and it almost feels like fate, right? The person begging you to help them with their troubles. You died on your own, didn't you? I merely buried you. Love these shots. Yeah, used my name without my permission. She's not being angry about that. She's just like, that's kind of disrespectful. Love that shot of like the garden. And she's having her dress, which is like, damn, right? Like she's taken over all of her. Like obviously if she's posing as her, it would make sense. And we start to talk. You know, I love that. Why? You know why I love that? Because we are going from that is the first time that actually happened in MPV for me, that there was like a weird in-between frame. But yeah, we have like a perfect frame with the dark and light, right? The perfect asymmetry basically, except for the lip. But that's like because the lip is protruding. And then we kind of tilt it on its kind of on an angle, which is really, really cool. It's kind of like straightforward, we're gonna talk shop, and then it's like, but wait, there's a twist. I didn't tell people, yeah, we talk through that, right? And I do love some of these shots going down. We can look at that closer, but she's like, you kind of remembered me of Asarola, right? Reminded me of Asarola. Not in the way you were, but the request you actually made. And this is how it happened. The main focal point is missing. He's only seeing eating and being eaten as assaulter and victim, and for Deftopia it's different, of course. For Suicide Master it's maybe to love as well. And this is why, right upon the request, it's like, please turn me. And then this is like almost like a very... And this is why it worked, right? This is why the vampirization worked, of course. This is why it worked, because it's like that reminiscence of Asarola, and there was this connection, and it's like, I'm helping you, I'm saving you, you want to become that as well, right? I'm doing you a favor. Damn, Suicide Master is a lot softer than I thought. I mean, I already knew that she had a soft spot for certain people, right? Or for like certain circumstances. And that she wasn't opposed to helping people in general, but very interesting how we equate that with the apple as well, right? Like the basically apple of Eden. Or the apple falling from the tree, and then we bon appetit, and it's also a flashback to Asarola Bon Appetit. Just licking her lips. An animal that wishes to be eaten by their own will. I'm the only one, right? The narrowing down is like a rejection of like, I'm the one, I'm the odd one out, I'm the special one. But in a way it's like, I can't think there'd be such a thing, right? But there is. We're the only ones. There is. Like, you exist, right? So you need to assume that there is at least possibly another person or another individual, another animal who feels the same way you do. as I think, I mean, being eaten in this specific case isn't being killed, right? I mean, your life ends, but there's a new life that begins. It's not like you're gone when you become a vampire. I mean, your old life is done, but maybe that's what you wish for. There's enough people in the world who just abandon their old life and go for a new one, right? If they can manage to do that, right? It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of like courage as well, or a lot of resolve to actually do that. But there's enough people who want to finish their old life and then like part ways with it. If that's a good thing, that's another question, right? That's another thing to consider. Even if there were such beings, a creature who's volunteering to be eaten. I'm telling you, there was a creature like that, right? It's like, yeah, there was one, right? Believe me. Also, the mere fact that you are someone, like, you're not special. Not in that way. Even not as special as, at the very least, in Suicide Master's heart, Kiss Shot is, or Asarola. Hardcore cool person like myself could not understand, right? Because she has these... Because she's so noble, right? Deftopia, Suicide Master, much as she has a soft spot, she's like a little bit of like an edgy teenager basically on the inside. She's like, she loves the cool stuff, the flashy stuff. And she's unapologetic about her nature, right? About eating, killing people, whatever, in order to survive. At least she used to be before she drank Acerola, and now she literally can't drink anybody anymore. But it's like, unlike you, it was more productive. And she's thinking... There's these laughing, right, bright and optimistic shots of her in her head. She's forgotten all about her sublime idea and she lost everything. Has she forgotten now all about her sublime idea? I mean, yes, she has. I guess she managed to accomplish it all. It's like, if you can forget about your past, I guess there's only a couple of ways this can be interpreted, and one of them is that you've accomplished what you wanted, what you set out to accomplish, and you've made peace with that, and it's in your past now, right? It's like you've done it, right? You're at peace with yourself. It makes me relief from the bottom of my own. She doesn't say heart, she says gut, which is right. To eat is to love. And it's like, what did you do with your immense power? And it's like revenge. What does revenge get you, right? Is revenge a goal that is desirable and achievable in most of the cases? I'm sure there's exceptions for everything, but and it's like, no, it's all it's gonna do is make me feel more hollow, right? There was this pain before, right? There's this like feeling of me being wronged, or of like, and I go out for revenge, and all I feel at the end of it is like I feel empty. I don't know what to do. I can't feel it completely, but I can kind of empathize with that, because like whenever I had, especially recently, I had an exam that was absolutely insane. I'd never want to do that again. I hope I pass, to be honest. But whenever you do something like that, a big effort in hopes of achieving a goal, and like at the end of the road, you think you feel accomplishment. You think you feel like that feeling of success in your heart, and sometimes that's the case, right? Like in certain scenarios, and if you're in certain mindsets, but sometimes all you're left with is kind of like this short feeling of relief, and then after that you've been doing so much all this time, right? You've been running through the hamster wheel and whatnot, and now you feel empty. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to put your energy to, because your energy levels are still up there, and now you're here and there's no activity that's going on. So what do, right? You feel like you're running on empty. It's like, and right, it's almost as if there's a hole inside of you. And at the same time, on an emotional level, if you're going through something very stressful, if you're going through something very like emotional, and you feel hurt, you feel wronged and whatnot, I feel like oftentimes it's not revenge or like getting one up on the other person that you feel wronged you that's gonna give you a sense of accomplishment. Oftentimes if you do that, all you feel is like empty and void, because you almost wasted all of that time, right? The only cases in which you will actually feel fulfilled is if revenge, even if revenge was the goal, if revenge wasn't the only thing that you've gotten out of the situation. Also, I find it very cool how throughout all of this, we see Deftopia in under the open sky, right? Looking up, right? Looking at the sky being free and open. And all we see Kie in is boxed in, right? She's standing in front of the building. The building is boxing her in. It's almost narrowing her down. It feels like she's being constricted at every second. And we see that with her facial expressions as well and the reactions she's showing. Head down, right? Empty from the bottom of my gut, right? And we see the entire world kind of being washed out. I haven't, right, okay, that's right. I haven't accomplished it to begin with. And for that purpose, she came here dodging countless wait, what are we saying here? It's more like I feel a void. Revenge is simply fruitless, yeah. Parched like I was mummified. Even then, I can't afford to stop, right? It's like this endless cycle of feeling like you have to perform, you have to do, and at some point you just feel empty. You feel like, I do like to go back to this little metaphor that one of my favorite movies of all time and favorite books of all time, The Lord of the Rings, Bilbo Baggins says in the very beginning of Lord of the Rings, where he's like, I feel like I'm butter stretched out on too much bread, right? It's like a very simple metaphor, but sometimes it feels like that, right? You're just like, there's barely any substance to you, right? And you're stretched out way too far. You have to do too much and in too little time oftentimes, right? In that aspect, it was a letdown, a disappointment, right? I thought vampires was something higher, something better. I felt like maybe this new life that I was gonna take on, it would all be rosy and I would feel great, but it doesn't. And there's this like disillusionment coming with it. It's not something great. I get captured like this as if it's time to pay the piper. Right. Don't get me too disappointed. This is where I want you to appeal to me about all the good things, right? I put that out to you in order for you to actually convince me that it's not that way, but it is. She is acknowledging that, and I think that is very grand of her because she realizes that vampires aren't like, it's not all peachy, right? Although she herself was born a vampire, so this is like us actually admitting, yeah, being a human isn't all that peachy or great, but right, it is what we have. There's nice things about it, there's poetic things about it, and there's like, we cannot make our life be worth living in a way. And this, I feel like this is how Deftopia sees it. Especially now that she feels like, yes, I kind of feel relieved, at peace with the fact that the one person I still cared about, right? The one person that I was still worrying about actually finding their way. They have found their way, you know, like even if it wasn't the way I expected it to be. And that kind of calms me, and right, I don't have any regrets in general. And this was the only thing that was holding me on to life. So at this point in time, I don't want to die, but I'm ambivalent towards it, right? A beautified story. And it's like, no, this is a deal, right? Cold and hard as Deftopia would. I love that. That shot, right? How we're like her on the left side and we're taking like the, right? This clear line of like the, I don't know how you call it, right? The like the way going towards Deftopia, and then it's like this little circle. It makes all my senses feel very tingly when I see something like that, especially like how much space Kia takes in here, while Deftopia is taking the back seat, but she's like on the receiving end of that. So she yeah, you can eat me. She's like, right, like putting her finger on the neckline, kind of, right, to suggest that. And there's the dark eyes gleaming. It's like holding that up, the big apple of return to be human. Yeah, okay, right. It's like, yeah, I said vampire wasn't all it seemed to me, but at the same time, human isn't much better to me. But that kind of opens the door for what we see later, right? That compromise that we reach, where we're like, okay, we're gonna be lenient on you, you're gonna turn back to be human, and then you have to deal with your shit, right? And this is what you have to do, right? Every human being has to do that. Process what you're doing, make some decisions in your life. You don't have to be in a cram school if you don't want to be. You can enjoy your life. Like when she's later on, when she's throwing that at Araragi, it was like, did you forget how it was to be a high schooler, to be so mangled out and be so stretched and whatever? I feel like this, like while Araragi kind of partially emphasized with that, he was at the same time, he wasn't really with her on that, because this is not the experience that Araragi had. Araragi had a whole different kind of crisis in his teenage years, right? A whole different, like, Sodachi and all of that stuff and everything culminating in Owari. He had a whole different can of worms, but this wasn't the same. And I feel like school itself didn't make him feel that way. And it was the worst. She's like, I was exaggerating. And then we reveal that one thing where it's like, you should chow down and eat all of me, crunch down on the flesh and bones, imbibe everything. That way the incomplete vampire that you are will become a master-slaying vampire. Alright, kill your master, become the new master. Right? This is literally how the Sith work in Star Wars. Holy shit. But yeah, it makes sense kinda, right? Become the apex predator. And now you're the one, like, because you imbibe the master, you're encompassing everything and the power they have. It's very interesting. I do wonder if that would have worked for Araragi. We have to look later on because he talks about with Sanjukahara about it for a second, and it's like, would it have worked for him or would it have not worked for him? I was kind of unsure on that, but we'll check it out, right? I love the dark red, which is like very powerful and like intense, while we have the light red, which is like symbolizing her being more like the apprentice, right? The fledgling. And we have the red and the blue, which goes so fucking hard. I don't know why it goes hard, but it goes hard. More powerful, more fearsome. And we have her in gray, basically, almost like she's being split apart. We see that in a second, right? It's very interesting. I do wonder what they want to express with that. Maybe of her like back and forth where she's like, do I want that or do I not want that? It's kind of stretching her apart by offering her those choices, being like, become a human or become that. You can't be that, right? Exactly, right? Exactly. Genau. Super powerful vampire versus human, simple high schooler. It's like the decision, well, what will it be? And she's too hesitant. She's like, what's in it for you? Right? Explain yourself. I don't want to be tricked. Love the blood moon and all of that. Right? And becoming like with the eye, her exactly in the perfect rounds of like the circles. Holy shit. And she's coming down, being all Deftopia-esque. Are you gonna die for me? Are you gonna sacrifice yourself for me? And we have the insane parallels to Kizu with in the beginning what Araragi was gonna do for Kishshot, and then later on what Kishshot wanted her own death to be, right? Because she was sick of life. She was like, I don't want to live like this anymore, right? I don't want to be like. I guess I never really got all of the reasons. I guess part of the reason is just loneliness as well. And it's like, I want to have that beautiful thing that she kind of like planned all the way back when she still was Asaro Lahime. But didn't remember. She only, like, I guess subconsciously still remembered, had that in the back of her mind, sacrificing herself for a greater good, in which case, like, in this case, it was like, I'm at the end of my rope. I don't want this vampire life anymore, and I have a lot of regrets regarding my first, right? Seishiro. I think Seishiro was the name. And I'm gonna give that to you, basically, that saving grace, that you can live your life the way you wanted to in the beginning, right? I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm gonna atone for that, and I'm gonna die for your sake. And this is like the question we ask: is this exactly the same? But no, we're making, like, in typical Nisio Isin fashion, we're actually splitting that at that point, right? We establish a parallel, and then we show the different paths, the different interpretations, the different ways that this actually goes, because no being within this universe is actually the exact same. Except for Pinky is actually Araragi, so yeah. The basics of a business deal is to serve both ends. And we're gonna jump back. Even if you don't drink or eat me, I'm going to die anyway. Right. Starve to death, anorexia. Don't let me get into anorexia. Are real problematic, right? But this is not the same. It was just a term being used here. Isn't that terribly uncool? Right? It's like, before I get to the point, this is the interesting thing, like, Deftopia, 600 years, observing countless vampires getting killed, right? Or wanting to die at some point in time, committing suicide, or, well, maybe her case is unique, but if it's not, then maybe even observing that people died that way, right, with starvation. Incredibly uncool, right? Pathetic, that's how she sees it. I want to have my dignity as I die. And that's an interesting, a very Japanese idea, I said, because it feels like that, right? Like, not just the art of like seppuku that we do see in Japanese history, but also a lot of this idea about like keeping your dignity, right? Not dying feeling weak and vulnerable and pathetic, and that is what Deftopia is feeling here. She's feeling her strength waning, and she is afraid that if she lives all long enough, even if she doesn't starve to death, maybe at one point in time she's gonna not want to live anymore, and then she's gonna have to actually be desperate enough to kill herself, and she doesn't want to get to that point. And she says, at this point in time, before I develop more relationships, develop more regrets, right? Live longer and maybe make it longer than it needs to be, I want to die content as I am right now. Die in control, decide when and how I die, which is like, ooh, right? We had that idea before, I think. I don't know which series it was actually in, but like, I think like vaguely in the back of my mind, I have this idea like, if I die, then I want to be the one who actually, if you're not the one who decides how and when to die, right? We can oh yeah, it was the series, it was this actually season in Nadeko Draw, right? Episode 4, I think, when we have like said goodbye to the popular Nadeko, right? The social butterfly Nadeko, where she was like, Nadeko was realizing for herself something, right, holy shit. Something that now comes up with somebody who's 600 years old. Look how emotionally mature Nadeko is in compare, like, not in all the aspects, right? But like, when she realizes, hey, one of the few things we can actually, does it really matter if we decide how to die? Shouldn't we decide how to live rather? It was something along those lines, and I really liked that idea, right? About like this, I think this was one of the most underrated ideas, actually, one of the most underrated episode, because it contained these couple of like moments that were really, really powerful. Among them, this one where Nadeko was like, right, deciding how to live should be more important than deciding how to die. The cause of death for 1819, right? And we talk back and forth, and I'm like, I love that. Look at that. It flows like a river, and we do have these very calming like surfaces and whatnot, and the red rock in the middle, and obviously the spotlight goes on the rock becomes red, and then we jump on it, right, as if we're a player on a stage taking in their role, right, a theater actor basically, right? And she phrased it like two choices, but it's actually, she says it as it is. She's like, you don't have to decide. It's like, I have no regrets, and we do see the two of them, right? It's like this relationship that for her seems probably very serene, and maybe reminds her a little bit of that little spark that she and Asarola had. Thoughtlessly and lightheartedly having fun, and I witness it with my own eyes, right? Somebody who is content. And we do see like how all the weight of the world and the redness and all of that surrounds her. She almost feels tiny, right? Like there's something bigger than herself that she's looking at. In this case, right, Asarola / Shinobu, having more or less, right, in her eyes, a fulfilled life, right? Having possibly accomplished what she wants to accomplish, and being happy. Nothing I regret. And that kind of makes her angry, right? Like that, with the fangs and everything. I'll kill you, and we call it even, and we change to blue, right? Cold, calculating. As someone who killed herself, I myself will kill you, right? And we have the shadow. All of these panels are really great. Please die a revert, merciless death. And she's cold to that, right? That's what the grayscale is saying. She doesn't, right? This doesn't affect her. It's like just, and it almost feels like all of like the emotion, all of the colors drained out, not because of a negative thing in this case. It's just like it leaves her not caring because she's so fulfilled in what she's doing, or in who she is right now. And you have the one red thing in all of the gray. It's almost like a predator is going for the prey. And like, I love how the mantle is being red, and we come in and we have like, it's such a contrast to what Deftopia was when she was attacking Asarola and whatnot, because every time it turned into this very red, bloodlusty, right, passionate, temperamental thing. And here it's not that, right? In the last moment we turn into that specific way she was portrayed, but before that it's all cold, it's all gray, it's all like almost like she doesn't care, right? She's just doing that because she's being prompted to do that. And he's just asking for the name. Everything is red. And this is what kind of touches her, I guess. Key. And this is when Araragi steps in. He's like, I've made the connection. Right? Red light, green light. It was a body swap. We explain it, but actually we've talked that through so much that we don't need to really talk it through that much. Right? The first victim. If you didn't, you couldn't leave a code with the mummy, right? It's like, even if the phone is locked, keeps right, the apps and whatnot, and this is where it gets important. We zoom in, right, and then we go across the pages. This is impossible on this. He had already set up the app at the point of finding the first mummy, right? And the first mummy is basically like not Kia in this case, right? So you're the first victim in a way. He had to set it up in the cell phone of the suspected Harimasu mummy in order for that mummy to become believable that it was her. 3 days ago, 2 days ago, 1 day ago, today. If you didn't, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Interesting that we, like, as she was the second one attacked. So Kia, why was Kia, oh, no. Yeah, she was the second one attacked, not Kia, but, right, the second mummy was the second one attacked. And yeah, and we do have that with, like, also the charging, which means the fact that I chose the Kanbaru residence to revive Suicide Master. And that I had Kanbaru step outside precisely the reason or facts that Prep is unaware of because the battery ran out. Right? All of them saying goodbye to Araragi. And obviously she would be at the Kanbaru residence in this specific case. That I had Kanbaru step outside for precisely that reasons our fucked Prep is unaware of, right? She wouldn't target the alumni gathering at Higasa's house. She would quite naturally target the Kanbaru's, yeah. And he's standing in the spotlight. Alright, I actually have to switch our memory cards, but then we're gonna be back and it's right. I'll see you then. Wait a second. And we are back. Welcome back. Don't worry, it's not gonna take too long anymore. Araragi in the spotlight. I love this like shading that we're using for some of these shots. That's amazing. And he's obviously this goes so hard. Holy shit, how the clouds surround her, right? And how she's like taking in major frame, but we're having like this little spot, almost like a frame around her. That's like the sky, which is kind of, and the little glint on her dagger. Holy fuck, this is such an amazing shot. So are you saving people like you always do? Right? Are you saving Suicide Master? This is what she's saying. That there's no humans at all here. Not even you. Do you have the capability? What was that? Do you have the capabilities to stop me, right? He's like, are you gonna save Suicide Master? He's like, no, I want to save you. You know, Harimasa, just like how you understand my circumstances, I understand yours just a little bit, right? He's not saying I understand all of you. He's like, I can empathize a little bit, right? It's very psychological, right? Very, very psychologist of him. But even then, this is going a bit too far. It's very interesting. It's not that I'm going too far, it's just that I've quit too much. Right, I can't stop anymore. I don't want to be a quitter, right? I don't want to keep running away from my own decisions. Just because I couldn't quit the team. And it's like very interesting how we like have that little frame where it's like very blurry, almost like it's from Suicide Master's point of view. Doesn't mean that I had to give up on living retrospectively, right? Like I quit too much. Let's revert all the people. You know, like the red, right? It's like that the going back on it when he says that, right? Let's save everybody, let's turn it all back. And she's like, no, you don't understand. All right, and then it's reflecting onto him. Leave me alone. I'm not you. Do they want to become human? Okay, now she's just justifying it retrospectively. She's like, she wants to think that, right? Because it's easier for her. It's easier for her to be like, maybe it was better for them. It's like you say to somebody who just died, being like, at least they didn't suffer anymore if they had a sickness or something. But it's just to appease your own mind, because you don't know that, Kia. But I love the shots with the different colors and whatnot. And then you're framing yourself differently. Isn't it right up? You can't even tell if they're alive or dead. And she's laughing. She's like, if you can't, if you're alive or dead, isn't that how every high school student is? No, that's the thing. This is your subjective experience. You're overgeneralizing. And that's your problem here. Are you completely parched on the inside? Did you forget those feelings? No, he never had them. Not in that way, right? Maybe a part of that. But Aragi's problem was moral and not academic or like performance related. Do you think we're being bubbly and enjoying we're being bubbly and enjoying adolescence? Well, you don't need to be. But I think there's like different degrees of everything, right? I do understand how hard it can be to be pressured. I understand it probably more than most other people. And I do understand maybe more than some other people how it is to have regrets about decisions you made in the past, or decisions maybe you didn't make in the past, or regretting not quitting the team, for example, right? But she's continuing her pattern of behavior, right? She's like, I'm in too deep, I can't do this. She's getting to a point where she's getting desperate, or she's like, she can't stand it anymore, and then she's gonna quit. She's gonna quit in another way that it's not directly quitting, right? And then you have the same issue, but you're kind of just rephrasing and restructuring and reframing it in a way that makes you yourself feel a little bit better about it. And you're hoping that whatever you're doing is actually going to fix the thing, but it's not going to fix the thing, because the only thing that's going to fix the thing is face it head on and be like, okay, what is my decision, right? And one of the decision would be to tough it out and be like, okay, I'm going to find a way to actually properly enjoy what I'm doing. And another one would be to be like, hey, look, maybe I should quit the team and find something that I actually want to do instead, because this was kind of just not working. Or maybe I should switch high schools, right? Maybe another team would work better for me. I can look around a little bit. Maybe all this academic like prep school thing where I have to go into like a high class tier college, it doesn't have to be. Maybe a normal college is fine, right? Because in the end, you're not studying to become the best. There's always going to be somebody who's better than you. Also goes for sports or whatever. Even if you're striving to be as best as you can, I think it's better to actually strive for being your best, right? Strive for being the best what you potentially can be, instead of measuring yourself to some kind of like external standard. And from there you can go on, right? But I understand it. No, you don't, right? But you have to, right? You're reflecting on that. You're like reflecting it back to Araragi is like, do we look like that? But no, that's not what he's implying, right? And he can tell a thing or two about having troubles, be that even if that's different troubles than you had, right? Even if he never felt that pressure, because he was never a student that strived to be the best of the best. Even though he was a little bit talented in stuff like mathematics and whatnot, and thanks to Sadachi. The blueness of adolescence is deeper than you think. Holy shit, that shot is so insane. It's a dark blue, similar to the darkness. I don't know what they're doing with like the little almost falling meteor or like stripes that are going through there, but you know. Deftopia being like, oh, to be young. Like, these young people, I don't know. Did Deftopia ever have an adolescence? It's a question, yeah. I mean, I guess oddities have an adolescence too, in a way, but it's very different from humans, probably. Do you want to eat your master, or do you want to eat the protagonist? It's like this red and blue. It's almost like there's different decisions and different vibes that are like fighting for dominance within Kia. Rich just scanned. I'm sick of adolescence already. And the basketball is coming in. It's like, right, it's the attack. I have chosen the red darkness. I was in the wrong. So let me make even more mistakes. That is insane, right? The shots are insane, but also what she's saying. She's like, right, I've been wrong. Let me double down. And this is what a lot of people do, right? They're like, I've been wrong, and they realize that on the inside, but they feel like sunk cost fallacy, right? They're in too deep, right? Or people would be looking at them differently if they walked back on what they were saying right now, right? It's about their ego. It's about their identity, about how they built themselves up to be and who they think they want to be or who they think they are. And then if they walk back on who they are, right? If they walk back on their principles, if they walk back on all of the decisions they've made, it's be admitting defeat. And she is a person who doesn't want to admit defeat. We see that from her not being able to quit the basketball team in the first place, although she indirectly admitted defeat by letting herself be turned into a vampire. But yeah. And we go on the attack. This is nothing too spectacular, but I love the moon shots, and I do love the red kind of general tint we do have. Shinobu kicking off her. I love that. Okay, I love that. Shinobu coming out of shadow, kicking off her shoes, and Hachikuchi just hurrying in here. And they're actually both of them trying to prevent this from happening, but Shinobu stumbles, which is very interesting. I wonder if that has any meaning. But yeah, Kagenui is coming in, and we switch. That is really, really cool. Everything is red, everything is like critical, everything is dangerous, and then it's like, and suddenly everything is blue. And Kagenui's color is bluish. No, it's yellow-green actually. It's very interesting. No, yellow-green is gone. Kagenui is blue-green, right? So blue and green are her colors, and she's coming in and her colors are dropping with her. And then she's merciless, of course. Blue, merciless, right? In a way, although blue can also represent depression, can represent like negative emotions in a way. Yeah, and she's standing on her like she still can't stand on the ground with her fucking curse. It's like it's kind of looking fine on you, Araragi, teasing him. Love that shot of her. There's no such thing as going too far against immortal apparitions. Isn't that right, Suicide Master? And she's like almost disappointed that Suicide Master is so harmless right now. It's like, damn, I actually can't go against you, because it's the same thing with like it is with Shinobu. And I've understood, right? Probably maybe Garan told her, or she's kind of realized that herself or whatever. She can't eat anything else but Asarola, and Asarola doesn't exist anymore, so she's basically at some point gonna die anyway, and she's very powerless. Maybe she even feels it. I don't know how sense-wise what Kagenui actually is. Even from the eyes of a monster like me, you go way too far, right? In the eyes of monsters, you are a monster. Love that shot. It looks like with the reflective, and I love blue colors in general, because it's like the color of moonlight and like a star, like a starlit night. And then she's a fledgling, and it's like, that describes you more than it does her. And we exchange these little shots back and forth with like kind of like poking each other, because they don't necessarily, like, they might respect each other but don't like each other. True that my current self is a far cry from your targets. It seems so. I literally flew down from here, North Pole, with a bunch of trouble. Looks like I have to let you guys off the hook for today. How lucky, though I can't tell who was the luckier between you and me, right? If I was at my peak, maybe I probably would have stomped you into the ground, is what she's saying, obviously. Seems I've lived yet again, and we turned this entire thing from like Vasa all the way into Shinobu Master, then we ended on like seems I have lived yet again. And the second part of that, like the second interpretation of that, is actually kind of a hint at her surviving a previous encounter with Kagenui, and her being like, well, it seems I lived yet again. And she's like, shut up, leave me alone. Love that. The shot with like the sky all in Kagenui all big in the middle of the frame and just pointing down, and the hand and finger is really big. And she's asking, who the fuck is that? And holy shit, I'm so glad that I see, like, the moment I saw the hair was like, please let this be a Sendugahara scene. Also really nice what you're eating there. Looks delicious. And that outfit, holy fuck. I would kill for... Let's just stop, okay? I don't want to start simping, okay? I was told she had to grant a special pardon so that the 4 girls sent to the hospital were reverted. I guess it was more adult circumstances than juvenile law that was applied here. Interesting. Adult circumstances rather than juvenile law. It's like almost like juvenile law, but I guess it's not really, right? It's like we're all being adults here and we're trying to be reasonable about that. We didn't revert that girl to a human. The other 4 would have to stay mummies forever. So we're making that decision very well knowing that we're not doing it for her to be like merciful or to pardon her, but rather to just say, you know, it's more important that the 4 girls actually recover. Yeah, and we have the blue eyes. But if you became vampire, didn't you have to kill your parent and return to being human, right? Back during the spring break, where I was the concerned party, that was definitely the case, but steady progress has been made on that end too. What happened to the girl? Susan ultimately got exiled. They settled for deportation, right? We settle on that. We're like, okay, you're basically harmless, but you can't stay here. We don't want you here. So Suicide Master is like, I'm out. Simple farewell. They're just smiling at one another. Guess the vampiric feelings, or rather vampiric time, isn't something I understand well. It's like, I still don't have a scale for it. Obviously, Aragi, you've lived like as much as like you've lived way less than a lot of humans have, so it makes sense that only with time you would understand how it feels. I love that Sentogahara is literally like brown hair and blue eyes now. We don't have the purple hair, right? Because that was always stylization, right? But it's likely not the final farewell of this lifetime. Right. Why are you quiet? Do you know something? Do you know something? Aragi's like, hold up, have you read the books? Have you read the light novel? Come to think, I felt like Shinobu knew something, but was keeping it a secret from me. Aragi knows that Suicide Master's time is limited, so the question is, what does Shinobu know? But what she'd been hiding was apparent in a comment that she made after the fact, okay? Oh yeah, the human thing. But I still don't know what she was hiding exactly. What are humans to you? Monsters, right? Very interesting. Like kind of giving a new sense to this idea of like people being afraid of spiders or whatnot, and people saying the spider is way more afraid of you than you are of it. But also cruel, right? The human not granting the vampire the mercy of death, right? The mercy of like a death with a head held high. Although I don't know if Deathtopia or Suicide Master would be pleading for it in this specific case, or if she's like, oh, we'll figure something out, maybe I'll see you again. But I gotta ruminate on that monsters comment, because I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what they exactly mean on that. Did the verbal promise with Gaen take place, right? The verbal promise. I believe that was the starting point in the first place, right? She promised him she'd leave him alone for college. I think it had taken effect for now. And Gaen's like, lies, deception, fake. If a human side is going to get involved like this, the establishment of a rumor division is imperative after all. Rumor division, right? Like, I mean, rumor could be oddity division in this sense, right? Or it could be like rumor in the sense of that, like Oshino in the beginning of Bake was going around collecting like rumors and stories and myths, right? That kind of oddities can be based on in a way. But maybe Gaen is saying, I'll leave you alone for now, Koyomin, but after that, like after you're done with college, I would like to recruit you for a bigger division who's actually dealing with this stuff. And that, I mean, I can very likely see Araragi being part of that. I can likely see Nadeko being part of it. We're building the new squad, basically, right? Like, and it's maybe supposed to be a squad that is closer together than what we had with Kaiki, Oshino, Kagenui, and Gaen, because they have like their stark differences. So it is very interesting that we build up this squad, and there's a lot of like little stuff that's kind of at odds with one another, right? We still have like Nadeko and Aragi have not met each other, and it's probably better that they don't meet for a year or two until like both of them have processed certain things, although Nadeko has made a great deal of accomplishments there. And even Aragi too, right? So they wouldn't be the same people even if they met today, but I feel like there's still a couple of things standing between some of the members, but I do feel it's very interesting how we're building up these new people, right? And I don't know if Ononoki would be part of that as an oddity, but she's certainly part of, like, at least the helper of the squad. And she's immortal, so right, there's that as well. I don't know if Tsukuyi will ever help, because there's this her not learning from things and her being an oddity herself. So Karen is kind of occupied with other things. Kanbaru I can very well see, right? Kanbaru, and with the Surga name, and with like the inheritance of basically her mother and Izuko right here, both of them actually being involved in all of that specialist business. I can see Kanbaru actually taking over a place right off Gaen, right? Toei Gaen / Izuko Gaen. I can see Aragi taking the place of an Oshino Meme. I don't know who would be taking the place of a Kaiki though. Right, that would very interesting, right? Are we maybe gonna meet somebody down the line who's taking that place? Although very interesting. I mean, we turned Kie back into a human, right? And apparently there had been strides made for them to, like, kind of feels a little bit like an excuse or a convenience that actually it works now and we can do it just fine. So I do hope at some point down the line in a later novel, Nisio Isin will actually have figured that out, or maybe he already has it figured out and writes it in a later novel, that we get more knowledge on how that actually works mechanically, so it makes sense to us and we feel like it's not cheap in the way that it's just been like retconned, but rather that we actually have something where it's like, okay, that makes sense from like a internal universe kind of logic level. I do hope that's the case, but yeah. Well, you can't say the same for Haruhisa, but affected. I guess the time has come, right? And we're starting that right here. You can say the same for Harimasa, but the fact that it's allowed is ultimately because I'm still very much a child. It's very interesting. Okay, Gaen spares him because she, in her eyes, he, in the way he acts, the way he works, he's still a child. But I disagree, kind of. I think, like, yes, there's this naivete going on, right? But I think Araragi, more than anybody else, has a very, very big understanding and is the closest to Oshino Meme that you could probably get, where he understands both sides and he tries to find a good balance between the two and just hear everybody out. Maybe the only thing that's not like, maybe the only thing that's a child about him is that he can't put his foot down and actually make a final decision and be like, I know this is not optimal, I understand you, but this has to happen, right? Because it's just, there's no other way. Because Oshino had these, right? Even though he kind of more or less oftentimes just arranged things in a way in order to make the people themselves actually make decisions that led to a certain outcome. But I can understand that. I still think it's very mature what Aragi is displaying here. All of that empathy that he has for people. I think the only thing that might be a little bit naive is how he actually deals with that empathy and how it can almost immobilize him in certain situations, and this is something he has to grow into, I guess. Holy shit, Senjugara, you're looking so great. Alright, see you again in the near future. It's like, isn't that what you normally say when you're not contacting me? It's like, you've got something cute here. Just kind of like, holy shit. I was saying that I absolutely adore this scene because they have such great chemistry. Like in the beginning, like throughout all of the Araragi portions of Monogatari, we did have the Senjugahara Koyomi or the Hitaki Koyomi romance growing and growing. We started out with these quips back and forth, and they had great chemistry to begin with, right? Playing off of one another, making jokes, right? Dunking on one another in like a very friendly and like almost flirtatious way. And then, but we go further into it, and like we have the tsundere savis and all of that stuff, and we go into the end where they start calling each other by their first name, right? And grow even closer to one another. But they have all that they went through together. And now it feels so casual in the way they talk to one another, but so loving on like a very, very basic and foundational level, that there's this incredible security within their relationship, that they trust one another 100%, and they're there for one another, and they talk about everything. Like, you believe that, right? They meet again, or they go home together, right? And like before bed they talk about things that happened during the day, or if he's been away for a couple of days or whatever, he's telling her everything and she's telling him everything, and it feels so great to feel that chemistry portrayed through the voice actors, portrayed through the way we animate them together, through the way they look, right? They look more mature. They've grown into their roles as their respective partners and also as the people they are in life. And it is so beautiful to, like, it's almost like if you've watched Monogatari from the beginning on, it's like seeing them grow up, right? It's like being there for them to become the person they really wanted or were meant to be, to fulfill their potential and become secure in the way they conduct themselves in life. And it's incredibly fulfilling to actually see this happen. He's like, I'm gonna help them actually figure that out with the basketball thing, and she's kind of just turning away. He's like, isn't that exactly where you're still a child, Araragi? I don't know what 100% what she means, but maybe what she means is just still have so much like empathy. You want to help everybody and fix everybody's issues, because in the beginning he was like, I kind of can't fix the issues of the basketball team, right? I'm just gonna let you know. But in the end, he's gonna try after all, and this is like just his hopeless, I guess, idealism, his way of just like trying to be that, like trying to help people, whatever he does, right? He's like, I can't help. I couldn't help but think of Kia's circumstances. You think about it and I do hesitate. I don't hesitate because I'm an adult. That unique reply, which I can't think of as the representative for the majority opinion, right? Again, we disagree as well. Maybe you don't, but I disagree too, as somebody who's like, whose future job is going to be to empathize with everybody, right? Even if, right, if we have to separate what a person's actions are, and if we're able and should be able to criticize that, we have to accept them as the person they are, as the product of their genes, their environment, and their own decisions, right? The amalgamation of all of that, and understand where this is coming from, in order to maybe in the future prevent something from like that from happening, or prevent something like that from happening more easily within society, within people, within humans, or be quicker to react to these things, right? To detect that this is what's happening to this person, and this is where they're coming from, and this is what psychology is all about, right? It's about understanding, right? Finding more solutions for prevention, for helping people and supporting people, and for getting them to a place where they can help themselves. That's why I'm on Aragi's side. And he's like, this is maybe not the majority opinion, and yeah, I agree 100%, but he's like, was serene and lacked all hesitation because she is that way, right? A little bit dogmatic in that way. So I get it. And he gets it. He empathizes, even with her. That's what it means to be an adult. I'm nothing more than a child. And maybe you don't want to be an adult. Not completely. Maybe the hope is that, I love how he's like touching, like caressing his own shadow almost. I mean, Shinobu, right? Like, but also himself in a way, right? Reflecting upon himself. I'm a child younger than a young girl, right? Just like the vampires who were put on probation. Even if I become immortal, even if I go to hell, even if I graduate from high school, or I become a college student, Koyomi Araragi, and we have the blue eyes in reflecting in the sky, to this day, it's in the middle of a moratorium. And the reason why that hits so close to me is, we use that a lot in the psychological world, that term moratorium, when it comes to developmental psychology. We call adolescence, right? Like teenage years up to young adult years, including like everything, like all the way to you start working basically. So that includes university and college. We call that a moratorium because it's like that in-between phase, right? That in-between phase where we go from one world to the other one, right? One world where you are mostly learning and growing and developing, right? To the world of adulthood, where you are the one who's like, you're also growing, you're still developing, but there's this different connotation on it. And a moratorium in a way, right? A moratorium is basically a delay of taking that next step. It's the in-between phase. We're delaying our adulthood, right? And this has become something that has been very prominent in educational psychology and in like educational sciences in general, that we realize that more than any other species, humans are actually having a very, very big moratorium on childhood, right? Because like a lot of animals, they are grown up basically adults within 2 or 3 years of their life, and then they lead an adult life. They're capable of everything and taking care of themselves. But one of the reasons why evolutionary psychologists and similar like evolutionary researchers assume that humans made it as far as they have, right? Have such a huge development of the neocortex, of like our thinking apparatus, and are so skilled in everything that they do, right? And lift themselves above most species, not all of them. There's very intelligent animals out there that didn't go the same path evolutionarily as we did, but still are very, very intelligent and on one level, or maybe even above. Who knows? But one of the reasons is that we have such a long term after being born that we are actually being taken care of and live in relative security, where our brain and all of our abilities and our body is able to develop to the maximum, basically, as much as it can develop. And that this development has been pushed more and more on the side of us actually living and existing in life as children, away from like pregnancy and like all of the things that happen during pregnancy when we develop as inside the womb of our mothers, basically, right? And it's being pushed out onto us actually existing in life and having that relative security around us until we're 18 or 16 when we can start working. But even then, a lot of us don't start working, but they go to like an advanced like secondary school, and they finish secondary school, then they're like 17, 18, 19, 20, depending on the country. Like in Germany, it's longer, like you're 18, 19. In the US, I think it's like 16 when you finish high school, and then you're going to college, which is like another 2 to 4 years, and then you're going to graduate school, which is university in Europe, for example, and then you're going to which is another 2 years, right? And only then are you actually starting, well, some people after the 4 years, right, when they have their bachelor's, some people when they have their master's after the additional 2 years, and only then are you starting to actually be into that clearly defined phase where you're calling yourself an adult, right? Because adult it's kind of artificial, but it is defined as you being mostly self-reliant, right? Working for your own money or to provide for yourself in some way, shape, or form. Living independently in a way, although in some cultures that is independently, but also in conjunction with your broader family that is all living together, right? But taking care of more duties as well within that social structure that we're saying, right? And it's very interesting because Araragi is saying himself right here, he's still in the middle of a moratorium, something very common in an industrial country at his age, right? When he's going to college. He's finishing what he will end up doing one day. And then we don't know what he's gonna do. Is he gonna follow a normal career path, or is he gonna be a specialist, or is he gonna do both? Kind of what is Garn earning her money with, right? Like obviously this is all supernatural fictional world, but I expect Nisio Isin to have answers to that. I'm pretty sure he does. So yeah, that was Monogatari. Off-season monster season, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I gotta say, this episode has to be my, I think, either second or third favorite episode of the entire season. Just because it concludes things so well, and because there's so much in there that's just beautiful. Framing, themes, right? It's all coming together. I love the final episode where everything is coming together. I love it. I loved it in Owari. I loved it in earlier seasons. I loved it in Tsubasa Tiger. I loved every one of those. Right? And I think like even though Shinobu mastered as like an entity, much like Vasa, they're not Bon Appetit, they're not as high up as a Tsubasa Tiger, as an Owari Monogatari season 2, right, or Ogi Dark, as not as high up as Nadeko Draw. It was still very solid, right? Leaning way more into the Saragoto side of things, right? With like the mystery and the detective games going on and whatnot, which is a side some people care a lot about and enjoy a lot, and others don't so much. And I'm kind of in the middle of that. I really enjoy it, but also sometimes I can't glean as much off of it as I would from emotional themes, which is why I love Nadeko Draw, and it's one of my favorite arcs overall in the entire Monogatari series. So yeah, all in all, great production value. There's kind of been a slight dip in between, but we recovered nicely. And yeah, I'm gonna end it with that. Go check out my other stuff. Over the Garden Wall is probably ready at this point. Monogatari is gonna come out after that. We're gonna do, like I said, in 1 or 2 weeks, or probably 2 or 3 weeks, we're gonna do a Monogatari discussion. Maybe we're gonna go through episode 14 again and look at specific things, but I'm probably gonna do that, pre-script that then, right? Go through them beforehand, write down certain things that I want to highlight, and then talk about that. And then after that, we're probably gonna go into and just like talk a little bit about overall stuff in general, shoot the shit, basically, if I can think of something to shoot the shit about. Other than that, I'm looking forward to the next Monogatari season. And I'll be seeing you for ReZero, for Monster, for Technolize, for maybe something else when ReZero fizzles out, right, for the 8-week break, and now that Monogatari is gone, and if we did Over the Garden Wall, and if we've got all of the other stuff out of the way, maybe there's something else that's coming, but keep your eyes peeled on that. But otherwise, I'll see you.